If you're setting up your own personal server at home, such as with a Raspberry Pi or an older computer, one of the things you definitely want to learn is how to set up SSH on that machine, because that allows you to control it remotely and do several things. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to do exactly that. So first things first, I have here terminals for two machines. So this is going to be my server machine. So anytime I'm here, that means I'm running commands from my server machine. Let's say I have a keyboard attached or and a screen attached. And this one is my client machine, so sort of like my laptop or my desktop and so on. So I'm going to start on my server machine. And by the way, I'm assuming the server is running some kind of Debian, Ubuntu OS. If you're running like slightly different versions, the commands here might slightly change. But yeah, so here I'm assuming sort of Debian, Ubuntu. So let's get to it. So first of all, first thing we want to do is actually install the SSH server. So to do that, well, I'm first going to update using sudo apt update. So this will update the listings for different kinds of software. And now I'm going to use apt install OpenSSH server. So this is going to install. It's asking me if I actually want to go ahead with this. I'm going to say yes. And we just wait for a little bit. Okay, so we have it installed. And to see if it's actually running, then we want to check with this command. So usually you want to check with this command. So systemctl status SSH. However, here I don't have systemctl set up. My setup is a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and say service start SSH. Oops, sorry. Okay, sudo service SSH start. Sorry about that. So now I should have it running. And if I jump back to my client machine, so let's say my laptop, and I go SSH Daniel, which is the name of my user on the server machine. If you check here, it's Daniel @ and then I can put the host name or the IP. If you know the host name, it's usually easier than to keep track of IPs. And by the way, I'm assuming that these two machines are on the same home network. So that's very important. Otherwise, you can't access the machine. And all of these instructions are assuming that you're setting this up on your own home network, which is a little bit of more of a secure network. If you want to set up something that's public facing, like a public server, then you probably want to follow some extra steps for securing this. But for now, I'm just assuming a home network. So let's go ahead, SSH Daniel @ server machine, which is my host name. And the first time I do this, I'm going to see this little message here. So what does that mean? It means that my client, my laptop, doesn't really know if it's talking to the actual server or if there's like, let's say somebody in the middle, like a man in the middle attack or something like that. So it gives me this little fingerprint, which is sort of like an ID for that server. And I mean, a lot of times people just say yes and continue, but here I'm actually going to show you how to check that. So first thing you want to check here is the algorithm. So here it's using this type of key algorithm called ED25519, and it's giving me this fingerprint using this hash algorithm, so SHA-256, and a bunch of random looking strings, looking characters. So to check that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little utility called SSH keygen, and I'm going to pass in these flags LF, and I'm going to go to etc, which is where configuration files are stored, SSH. I'm going to list here so these are all of the files for public and private keys for my SSH server. And a public key is sort of like an ID, an identification of that. So I need to select the one that matches the algorithm. So again, the algorithm here is this one, ED25519, and it matches with this one. So SSH host ED255 19 key.pub. So that's very important. You want the .pub one, which is the public key. So let me go ahead and use that file then. So I press enter, it'll give me the fingerprint. Okay. So if I need to compare this with this one, and if I check here real quick, I see that it's actually exactly the same one. That's great. So that means that we know we're talking to our actual server and not some man-in-the-middle attack. No man-in-the-middle attack is happening here, so I'm just going to say yes. Oh, I probably need to do that again because it timed out. And it's asking me for my password. So I'm going to enter my password for my server machine. And here we go. Okay, so now you see here I'm on the server machine. So that's great. We were able to get in. So now every command that I run here, I'm running from my server, even though I'm on my client on my laptop. It's like I'm controlling it remotely. Okay, so that's great. And well, I mean, it could be done here. So this is great. And when I want to exit, I can just say exit, and I'm back to my terminal on my client machine, my laptop. Now I want to give you a little extra tip here. So if you go here and try to SSH, it's gonna ask you for your password each time. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes that can be a little bit annoying if you're always like logging in and not logging out. So I'm gonna teach you a little extra tip here. And the tip is to use SSH keys to log in. SSH keys are basically gonna have a key pair. So you're gonna generate a private key, which only your laptop has. It is how you prove who you are. And then you're also gonna generate a public key, which is sort of like an identification. So public key is your identification. Your private key is what allows you to prove that you own that ID. And so we're gonna generate one from our laptop, and then we're gonna transfer the public key to our server and install it there to say, hey, this ID, this person holding this key is allowed to log in. So let's do that. So to do that, I'm back here on my laptop. I'm gonna run SSH keygen, and I mean I could just run it like that. By default, it's gonna generate an RSA key. I mean there are different algorithms you can choose. In my case, I'm gonna choose this one. Well, okay, yeah, let's do this. So I'm gonna generate this key pair. First, it's gonna ask me where do I want to put those keys, and I'm just gonna stick to the default location. So this is my home directory. It's inside of this little hidden directory called .ssh, and the name of the actual key. I'm just gonna leave it empty, meaning I'll install it in the default place. I'm just gonna hit enter. I could enter a passphrase here. In this case, I'm just gonna leave it without any passphrase. And okay, there we go. So we generated one. And if we actually list our .ssh directory, we see that we have two of them. So this one is my private key. Again, I don't want to share this with anybody. And here I have my pub key, which I want to install into my server so that it knows who I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to show the contents of that public key. Oops. .ssh. Okay, so these are the contents of my public key. I want to copy this. And now I'm going to, let me clear this. I'm going to SSH into my server. So I'm going to go Daniel server machine. I'm going to put my password one last time, hopefully. Okay, now I'm inside of my server, and I'm going to basically echo, or I'm going to add this into a file that's called .ssh. By the way, this is on the home directory. So home directory .ssh authorized keys. Oh, okay, I don't have such directory yet. So let me create it here. So I'm going to make the directory, and then I'm going to create that file. And now I can just add that in there. By the way, of course, you can use like text editors. This is just like slightly easier because I can show it exactly here with one command. Okay, so let's double check if we actually have it there. Okay, great. So this is a list of all the keys that are authorized to log in this machine as this particular user here. So now I'm going to exit. I'm going to go back to my client machine and I'm going to try again. So let me clear all of this and say SSH Daniel at server machine. And there we have it. We just logged in without entering a password. It just knows who we are. This will work in this particular laptop because I have the private key. And yeah, there you have it. I hope you really enjoyed it and stay tuned for more. Thank you very much.